All right, everyone ready for a deep dive today? We're going to be looking at two big European wars from the 1700s.
Ooh, 18th century, my favorite.
The War of the Austrian Succession and 7 Years' War.
Lots of action.
We've got some interesting sources for this one, some lecture notes, even some recordings.
A little something different for our listeners.
We'd really want to get into not just, what happened.
Yeah.
But, why?
Why should we care? Why is this important?
Exactly. Why should this matter to you today?
Well, and these two wars are really interesting because they're kind of like a historical sequel.
Ooh.
The first one, the War of the Austrian Succession, sets the stage for that second one, the 7 Years' War. It's all connected.
Oh, that's fascinating. Okay, so let's rewind the clock.
Okay.
Back to 1740.
Right.
Europe is our setting. What's happening? Power vacuum.
Classic.
The Holy Roman Emperor Charles VI dies, leaving his daughter, Maria Theresa, to the Habsburg throne. Now, Charles VI, he spent years getting these European powers to promise that they would recognize her as his rightful successor.
That's smart.
Like, he thought he had it all figured out.
Oh, but
Happened.
there's always somebody that sees an opportunity in chaos.
Oh.
Enter Frederick the Great of Prussia.
Frederick the Great.
Saw a woman on the throne and thought perfect timing. He breaks his promise and invades Silesia,
Silesia.
a region of Austria very rich in resources. Talk about throwing the rule book out the window.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm taking it.
Yeah, basically.
So this land grab in Silesia that seems small,
Right.
it has huge repercussions. It basically triggers a free-for-all.
It does.
These rivals jumping in.
Exactly. You've got France and Prussia on one side, Britain and Austria on the other.
Okay.
And these alliances, weren't necessarily based on deep strategic thinking. It's
Nice.
more like old grudges
I don't
and
know.
power plays,
It's like centuries of European drama.
Right. Imagine trying to predict who's going to team up with who based on that.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Hundreds of years.
Okay, so after 8 years of this fighting, what happens?
Well, a stalemate, basically.
The stalemate.
Prussia gets to keep Silesia,
Okay.
and everyone else is kind of like licking their wounds.
All right, but so this draw, it wasn't really a resolution.
No, it wasn't. It was more like hitting pause
No.
on a conflict that was not over.
So it's going to keep going.
Oh, yeah, and it set a dangerous precedent, too.
How so?
It reinforced that idea that a female monarch,
Right.
she's vulnerable,
Makes sense.
target for ambitious rulers like Frederick the Great,
Right.
plus that unresolved issue of Silesia.
Yeah.
Ticking time bomb,
Ooh.
just waiting to explode in the next big conflict.
Which brings us to...
1756.
Okay.
One of the most head-spinning moments in European history.
Okay, tell me more.
The diplomatic revolution.
The diplomatic revolution.
Imagine a world where your arch-nemesis suddenly becomes your best friend. That's what happened with France and Austria.
No way.
These two powers who had been at each other's throats for centuries, they decide to bury the hatchet
Wow.
and team up against a common enemy, Prussia.
Makes sense.
They both recognize that Prussia,
Yeah.
emboldened by its success in the previous war,
Yeah.
was a threat to the established order in Europe.
They don't want Prussia to get too powerful.
Exactly. Fear more than friendship
Oh, wow.
was the glue that held this new alliance together.
So to make this official,
Yes,
they arranged a marriage.
they did. Between Marie Antoinette,
Okay.
Marie Theresa's daughter,
Okay.
and future King Louis XVI of France.
Okay, and Louis XVI.
Get this, he was 1 year old at the time.
What?
Talk about pressure.
Yep.
This wasn't just a marriage, it was a strategic maneuver.
Yep.
A way to solidify the alliance and try to contain Prussia's growing power. And this is where things get really interesting.
I bet, because this is a huge diplomatic shift.
Yeah, this seemingly minor diplomatic shuffle sets the stage for a global conflict
Wow.
with consequences that are still felt today.
Okay, so the pieces are in place, the tension is building, and the stage is set for the 7 Years' War. But we will have to save that story for part 2 of our deep dive.
Okay, so remember, we left off with France and Austria. They're now buddies, right?
Best friends.
United against Prussia, and
Yeah.
that's how the 7 Years' War kicks off. In 1756, it's like
Here we go again.
the sequel everybody was waiting for.
Round 2.
But this time, the stakes are even higher.
And remember that unfinished business?
Oh, from the last war?
Yeah.
Silesia, right.
Austria still wants it back.
Oh yeah, they're fuming about it.
They're going to get it back now, right?
Oh, they're sure gonna try, especially now that they've got France on their side, but it's not just about Silesia anymore.
It's not.
This war becomes like this global power struggle.
Okay.
Battles raging not just in Europe,
Oh, wow.
North America, even India.
Wow, so it's like the whole world.
Yeah, the entire world became a giant chessboard
Oh, my God.
with all these powerful nations making their moves, trying to outmaneuver each other.
So let's zoom in on Europe for a minute.
Okay.
Prussia is outnumbered again, right?
Once again, yeah, facing this coalition.
Yeah.
Austria, Russia, France.
Sounds like they're going to lose.
You would think that, right?
Yeah.
But here's where Frederick the Great really earns his nickname.
Oh, I like it. Tell me more.
He uses these brilliant military tactics,
Like
like the oblique order.
oblique order. What's that?
So it's this maneuver where he focuses all his forces on attacking one enemy flank
Cool. Okay.
really rapidly, and it just catches his opponents off guard.
Wow. So he's basically taking on multiple superpowers at once.
He is, and he's holding his own.
That's impressive.
Prussia, despite being smaller, outgunned, they become like this scrappy underdog.
I love it.
They fight tooth and nail, and they achieve some pretty stunning victories.
I bet. What a story.
It's really a testament to their military organization and Frederick the Great's leadership.
So while all this is happening in Europe, what's going on across the Atlantic? I know this war had a huge impact on America, too.
You're absolutely right. In North America, this conflict is known as the French and Indian War.
Okay.
And it's a crucial turning point.
How so?
Both Britain and France, they realized that control of North America
Is at stake.
is at stake. Yeah, and they pour resources into this fight.
This is where things get really interesting for us in the 21st century, right? Because the outcome of this war shaped the future of both Europe and North America.
Oh, absolutely. It's all connected.
I love how it's all connected.
You know what happens on the battlefields of Europe has a direct impact on what happens in the forests of North America,
That's great.
and vice versa. And the decisions made during this conflict,
Yeah.
they have consequences that echo down through history.
All right, so after years of fighting on multiple continents, what's the resolution?
Well, the war finally ends in 1763 with the Treaty of Paris.
Brief of Paris.
And on the surface, it looks like a clear-cut victory for Prussia and Britain. Prussia keeps Silesia.
They got what they wanted.
France loses its vast colonial holdings in North America to Britain.
Oh, wow.
But as with most things in history, it's not that simple.
There's more to it.
There's always more to it. You got to look beneath the surface.
Okay, like what?
Well, France, for example,
Yeah.
they're deeply in debt after funding these two major wars.
That makes sense.
Their economy is in shambles. Their people are increasingly restless. And this sets the stage for the French Revolution.
Oh, wow. So even though France technically lost the war,
Right.
it still ended up having a huge impact on the world.
Absolutely. And on the British side, victory comes at a cost.
Oh, how so?
They racked up huge debts fighting this war.
Yeah.
And they need to find a way to pay for it.
Of course. How did they do that?
Their solution,
Yeah.
taxing their American colonies.
Oh, no, that's not going to go over well.
It doesn't go over well, no.
I've heard something about a revolution brewing over there.
Right. So the point is, even seemingly decisive victories, they can have unintended consequences.
It really can.
And it's a classic example of how history rarely offers these simple narratives of winners and losers.
Right.
It's all about understanding the complexities, the interconnectedness of events, and the enduring legacies that shape our world.
Starting to see how these wars from the 1700s are still relevant to us today.
They are. They're like a crash course in geopolitics, economics, and the ripple effects of conflict.
We haven't even talked about the human cost of these wars.
And that's right. Millions of lives, lost families, torn apart.
Oh, that's awful.
Entire societies forever changed.
Yeah.
You know, it's a reminder that war,
Yeah.
no matter the supposed justifications,
No.
always comes at a terrible price.
That's a very sobering thought, but I think it's an important one to keep in mind.
I agree. It's easy to get caught up in the grand narratives and the military strategies,
Yeah.
but we should never lose sight of the human stories.
At the heart of it all.
Exactly.
All right, so we've gone through these two major wars.
Yeah.
The War of the Austrian Succession and the 7 Years' War.
Yeah, empires, clashing alliances, changing battles, raging across continents.
So the big question, I think,
What does it all mean?
yeah, who are the real winners and losers?
Well, that's what makes history so fascinating, isn't it?
I think so.
It's rarely a simple case of, you know, good guys versus bad guys, or victors and vanquished.
Right.
It's all about understanding those nuances, the long-term consequences that ripple outward in really unexpected ways.
So you can't just like, look at a map and say, oh, they got more land, so they won.
No, exactly. Like take the 7 Years' War.
Okay.
On paper, Britain looks like the big winner, right?
They did gain a lot of land.
Massive amount of land in North America. They basically kicked France off the continent.
Right.
But that victory,
Yeah.
it planted the seeds for the American Revolution,
Uh-oh.
which just a couple decades later,
Yeah.
cost Britain one of its most valuable colonies.
It's like a domino effect.
It is. One event triggering another and another.
Wow.
Consequences that unfold across generations. And what about France's financial troubles?
Oh, yeah. Remember how they were scraping together every penny to fund those wars?
Yeah, they were in debt.
Crippled their economy, and combine that with their outdated tax system that, burdened the peasantry
Right.
while the nobility got off scot-free.
Yeah.
You've got a recipe for social unrest.
And revolution.
And eventually revolution.
So the French Revolution, this massive event that reshaped Europe,
Oh, yeah.
can be traced back in part to those 18th century wars.
Absolutely. It's a powerful reminder that these events that we might consider history
Yeah.
are directly connected to the world we live in today.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. It's all part of a larger story.
It makes you wonder about those what-if scenarios you know.
I know, right?
Like, what if Frederick the Great hadn't been so ambitious?
Oh, yeah.
Or those alliances hadn't shifted so dramatically?
What would the world look like today?
I know, it's impossible to say.
It is, but that's the beauty of history.
It is.
It invites us to ask those questions, to ponder those possibilities.
To think about those alternate paths that history could have taken.
Exactly.
And maybe by understanding the mistakes and the triumphs of the past,
Yeah,
we can make better choices in the present
hopefully right.
and create a brighter future.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into these conflicts,
Yeah.
I hope you walk away with a deeper appreciation for how complex history is
Yeah, how interconnected everything is.
and the legacies that still shape our world today.
They really do.
And remember, this is just the beginning of your exploration.
It is keep learning, keep questioning.
Keep diving deep into history.
Absolutely.